All right, guys, welcome back after that short break. Let us continue with what is in front of us. So I'm looking at the question saying, Jamie rents a hall from a private company at a fixed cost of 3,600 Rand per function. She then hires out the hall and charges 50 Rand per person. That means per ticket, right? Then a table is presented here, number of tickets sold, amount received in Rand. Then we'll also notice here that there's a missing value A, right? But all the other values are completed for us. So looking at the first question, 1.1, determine the cost of that Jamie will have to pay if the hall is rented out for 150 people. All right? Now looking at the scenario, we are saying here, Jamie rents a hall from a private company at a fixed cost of 3,600 Rand per function. So in this case, it's not going to matter how many people attend, right? The fixed costs remain the same. So therefore, we will say that in order for her to rent this for 150 people, she will still need to pay the fixed cost of 3,600 Rand. Guys, I hope that is fine. Looking now at the next question, there's the scenario again. I'm doing 1.2 now. Calculate the value of A, right? So we want to know number of tickets sold. If the amount received is 2,500 Rand. Remember, we are saying here, she charges 50 Rand per person or per ticket. Now income or amount received is 2,500. So therefore I'll go and I say 2,500 divided by 50 Rand, right? Per ticket or per person, right? We want to know the value of A. So therefore, if I do that, so I'll say 2,500 divided by 50 Rand. So that means it will give us 50 people. So therefore, A is going to be 50. So what are we saying through this is that she must sell 50 tickets in order for her to receive an income of 2,500 Rand. Guess that is fine. I'm saying further down, the income graph has been drawn on the axis here. Draw the cost graph for renting the hall on the same set of axes. Right, so now we have to look at, we are saying the income graph is here. This is the income, and I just want to quickly label it so that we know this is the income graph. Draw the cost graph for renting the hall on the same set of axes. Now it's important to note that, remember we said it doesn't matter whether she is going to invite 50, 100, 150, or 500 people for that matter. Her cost will remain the same as 3,600 Rand. So therefore I go now to my y-axis where we see money in Rand, and I will look for 3,600. So here's 0. So 2,000, 3,000 will be more or less there in the middle. So can we agree that 3,600 will be more or less there? And then I'll draw my line across. Because remember, like I've indicated, your expenses, or her expenses for that matter, is going to remain 3,600 Rand. Guys, I hope that makes sense given the scenario. Okay, let's look at the next question. It says, use the graph to determine the difference between the income, so difference, right, between the income and the cost for renting the hall for 200 people. Indicate whether it is a profit or a loss. Right, so let's look at this question quickly. So remember, formula first. So I'll say profit or loss equals my income, and I'm going to abbreviate it, minus my expenses. Okay, so profit or loss equals my income minus my expenses. So looking at this graph, it says very specifically, use the graph now. Okay, remember we can use calculation as well, but we must use this time around the graph. First thing, we must invite 200 people, or we're going to entertain 200 people. Number of people on my independent axis here, x-axis, let's find 200. So there's 200, right? Now I'm looking at my income first. So I'm going to move all the way up until I intersect with the graph for income, right? So it's there. Then I will move to my left-hand side, and I'll find that my income for entertaining 200 people will be 10,000 rand. So therefore, I'm going to substitute, and I say this is 10,000 rand minus. Now I'm moving on to my expenses. Remember, still the same amount of people, right? That is 200. So here, 200, and to go back to what we've said, doesn't matter the amount of people we're going to invite, our fixed cost remain the same. Therefore, the cost will be 3,600 rand. Guys, I hope that makes sense. I hope that's clear. So now I'm going to simplify whatever I've substituted. So I'm going to say 10,000 minus 3,600. That gives me a total of 6,400 rand. Right, so now it says indicate whether it is a profit or a loss. Therefore, I go and I say this now, since my income is more than my expenses, this becomes a profit. Okay guys, while we're here, I just want to point out one important thing. Remember, the previous time I asked you to draw a graph, right? And now this time around, I wanted you to answer a specific question based on that graph. Now please note, if your graph was done incorrectly, but now you've answered it, given this question, remember we will mark this question based on your graph. Remember, we have already penalized you, therefore we cannot penalize you again. All right, so please keep that in mind. Always show all your calculations, and then always make sure that whatever's been asked, attempt that specific question. All right, now let's quickly move on to our next sum, that is 1.5. I'm saying, and remember, this is still the same context, right? So I'm not going to read that part again. It says, use the given information, there's now above, to determine the difference between the income and the cost for renting the hall for a function for 65 people. Indicate whether it is a profit or a loss. Show all your calculation. Right, this time around is for 65 people, and please look at the difference. The previous sum we've worked from the graph. This time around I'm saying use the given information above. So I'm going to work with this. Okay, so again, indicate whether it is a profit or a loss. So therefore I'll start by indicating, all right, profit or loss equals my income minus my expenses, right? Step 1, formula first, right? Step 2, I'm going to substitute now. So first of all, I need to establish what is my income from the given scenario. Remember, we are saying the fixed cost is the same irrespective of the number of people. And then we also indicated she charges 50 rand per person. Now we are looking at 65 people. So I'm going to do it here so you can see. So I'm going to say the 65 people multiply by the cost of 50 rand. Just do that so that you can see. So it's 65 rand, 65 people, multiply by the cost of 50 rand. So our income will be 3,250 rand. We agree on that, all right? What else is important? So let me quickly go and substitute that. Income, 3,250 rand. Then we are saying the expenses remain the same, irrespective, all right? So therefore, I'm going to indicate there the expenses is 3,600 rand, as it indicated there, 3,600 rand per function. So now I already substituted. Let me simplify. I'm going to say 3,250 minus 3,600. So if I do that, I'll get a negative value here. I'll get minus 350 rand. Okay, so at this point in time, you know, as soon as we have the negative value, it indicates a loss. And it's important to conclude. So therefore, I'll indicate that Jamie is making a loss of 350 rand. Okay, let me quickly run through this again. Profit equals income minus expenses. We are inviting 65 people. I took the 65, multiplied by 50 people attending, or 50 rand per ticket. That gives me an income of 3,250. Substitute into the formula, minus my fixed expense of 3,600 gives me a negative answer of 350, which equates to a loss. And then we are looking at question 1.6 now. It says, explain the meaning of break even in this context. Remember, this lady Jamie is paying 3,600 rand per function. So break even in this context means that in order for her to make the 3,600 rand, she must invite enough people, or we can put it otherwise, she must sell enough tickets to equate to 3,600 rand as well, so that her income, the 3,600, equals the expense for the fixed cost, or the fixed cost of 3,600 rand. So meaning there will be no profit, no loss at this point in time. Guys, let's take a quick break. After the break, we'll quickly recap what we've done so far. See you now.